Good afternoon, everyone. You've been hearing, how many of you believe that this is a great time for AI and it's very relevant for your business? The times are ripe. But I just want to be provocative to start with. AI is completely irrelevant when data is not relevant. I think it's very important for us to understand that we talk so much about AI, and AI is all about data. If your data is not relevant, AI is not relevant at all. For the purpose of using technology, if you adopt technology, the outcome of the AI engine is not going to be very relevant for you. I want you to fill this blank. All transformations in history has always happened through, any guesses? Some form of intelligence. It is where if you just look at the history, whether it is political, social, economic transformations, because of discoveries and inventions, whether you moved from horse to an automobile to a rocket to whatever, it's all always through intelligence. So the next level of transformation will also happen through intelligence. So I just want to ask this question, right? Now we talk about intelligence, right? And who are in the audience today? How many of you have 100% market share? Just raise your hand in whichever business. How many of you have 50% market share? How many of you have 25% market share? Whenever I ask this question, very few businesses can even count double-digit market share in the market they operate, unless you too narrowly define your market. And Amazon globally has 38% market share in the e-commerce space that they operate, right? That's a market leader. Why am I saying this? If most of the businesses are a decimal share of business, even the market leaders have decimal share in an unorganized market. If your market share is going to be fractions, where does the intelligence lie? We keep talking about data-driven decisions. And the data that you're talking about is the small data that you're playing with. Hence, the intelligence is lying outside the company, not inside the company as much. What you have is absolutely important, very contextual, but the question is to look out and then say, how can I enrich the data that I have? That's a question. I think it's important for you to ask that. Where does the intelligence lie? Now, you keep hearing about this, right? Data is oil or soil. Which side are you? Oil or soil? Right? For a lot of people say data is soil now, no more oil. But the question here is every soil good for a plant? The soil has to be properly nurtured. Otherwise, no plant will grow. Right? It's not about data. It's a question of the quality of data, what data is so important. While we talk about so much of AI and everything, very less is talked about the data. That's a point that I want to leave you all with. Data-driven decision making is not good enough. If the data itself is not good enough, if the data itself is not comprehensive enough. How do we address this challenge? We need to move from a space called a supply-driven way of understanding markets. We are now saying that intelligence is outside the organization. How do you go and research your market today? And the researching the market is typically walking the street, doing some surveys which are random, and maybe scraping data if it is digital. Now, if you're scraping data, if you're observing supply-driven information. If you're not having the consumer demand-driven information, then you really don't know the truth, right? How do you move from a supply-driven market research to a demand-driven market research, which will put consumer at the center of everything that we do? Now, this is not a marketing function, this is not a merchandising function, this is an organizational function. You run the entire company putting consumer at the center. That's a transformation that we are seeing. In other words, you're not looking at the shelf in the market, you're looking at what's getting into the customer's basket, not of your customers, consumers at large in the market you operate. Now, this is one of the things that we enable brands and retailers, which is how do we sense consumer demand perpetually? How many of you agree that consumer taste and demand patterns are changing more dynamically than ever before? And they are influenced by so many things. You cannot have a very static market research. and have a dynamic business running, right? For you need to have a perpetual consumer understanding, and that's something that we do. It's one of its kind in the world. It's a perpetual consumer demand sensing engine. We started with fashion, now we work across various categories, including lawnmowers, drilling machines, CPGs. For these are some of our validations, right? Whatever we sense as a consumer demand, it's 80% plus accurate across various markets. Some of those customers are global customers. How do we deliver that? One of our solutions is a consumer intelligence solution. It helps you spot opportunities in the market that you operate. For example, we help you spot white spaces. For example, start doing something which you're not doing today as a recommendation. For example, one of the customers came to us and said, we hear a lot of information from the market saying that we are doing less of bottoms, right? What we found out was they were doing 20% bottoms, but the market can absorb 31% bottoms. For you can actually, if you are analyzing only your data, this will never come up, right? Significant shift in product mix. We can also help you tell you what you should do more of, what you should not do, and what are the spaces that you should not touch at all. Not only that, we help brands and retailers to also de-risk the quantities. One is what kind of products we should do. Second is how much to make, right? We have an engine which can help predict demand of an unseen new product with an accuracy lift of anywhere upwards of 20% from your current baseline. For want of time, I'll just move forward quickly. For these are the kind of business impacts the brand and retailers see: increase in full price sell-through, reduction in inventory, revenue uplift of anywhere 20%, and research time reduction by 10x. We have compelling partnerships globally with lots of technology organizations. Along with that, we work with academic institutions, like whether it is London College of Fashion, whether it is MIT and Wharton, where we do data science research jointly with them. So I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. And my request is just question the data that you are using in all of the algorithms, right? If somebody says that I'm an AI vendor, first ask this question: what's your data source, right? If the data is good, the outcome will be good. And if you want to reach out to me, that's the QR code. Thank you very much.